could all agree that The Walking Dead has many mysteries. One of those mysteries is this door, which reads, "Don't open dead inside." This door was first shown in the very first episode of The Walking Dead, and showed up once more in Rick Grimes' final episode, in Season 9, when Rick was having those hallucinations and he was walking through the door again. But what many people don't know and have overlooked is that they actually showed who wrote this message in a webisode that AMC has actually uploaded 9 years ago. That webisode actually gives more insight on who wrote the message, what situation they were in, why did they write it, and it also explains how Rick's life was saved. So let's get into the Walking Dead webisode titled The Oath. Now, this webisode is set during the start of the apocalypse, and we follow two survivors named Paul and Katrina. And they're escaping a swarm of walkers which killed most of their group, because it is specified that it was a group of 20, but these two were able to escape. And because this is very early on in the apocalypse, people are still not used to loss and their friends turning into walkers. So Katrina is in shock and holding her friend, where Paul comes and he tells her that, she's gone, let's escape. Then afterwards, when they're trying to escape, it's shown that Paul has a wound on his stomach. They're both running until the morning, where they stumble upon the green Hyundai that Rick's group actually uses in the earlier seasons, season 1, 2. So Paul is looking for a medkit in that green Hyundai in the trunk, because he doesn't want to startle Katrina, and they just want to keep on going. Eventually she finds out, and Paul is about to pass out, so she drives him to a couple of hospitals where they've all been overrun by walkers. Eventually they stumble upon the hospital where Rick is at, and they get inside, where Katrina locks herself in a closet because she hears a walker coming. When the walker is about to attack her, there's a nurse that saves her. Her name is revealed to be Ellen Green, and she is the only nurse in the hospital. Everyone else is dead, and she is presumably the same nurse that has been taking care of Rick all this time, but it hasn't been specified as of yet, because there's a stretcher in front of Rick's door, as we see in episode 1. So, it could go either way. She could probably assume that Rick is already dead, and, she's not opening the door because he's a walker. But she takes Paul under her care, straps him down, because she is assuming that he might turn into a walker, so just for extra precautions. Then some time passes, and the nurse, she actually explains to Katrina how she's helped people commit suicide by injection, because she believes that this is the only way to escape the horrors of the world, and she has actually assisted another person in suiciding when people were after her during the start of the outbreak. But Katrina is still holding out hope that Paul is still alive and he will pull through. But some time passes, and they assume that Paul is dead because he starts groaning like a walker. Then the nurse takes Paul's stretcher to the cafeteria, where a lot of walkers are in, and is blocked off by a wooden plank. She shoves it in the cafeteria. Then she goes back to Katrina and convinces her to commit suicide, because Katrina believes that Paul is gone and she has no one else in the world left. But then Paul wakes up, still in the stretcher, still with the belt wrapped around his wrist, and he manages to escape it and fight off the walkers. Then he grabs a fire extinguisher and breaks through the door. Then Paul runs to Katrina's room, and he sees that the doctor has already injected her with the injection which caused her to die. So the nurse then pleads that, she thinks that Paul was dead, and Katrina thought that Paul was dead, and she was too scared to move on in the world. But when Paul is about to kill the nurse, he chooses not to. Well, that's what we believe. that the nurse did not die and Paul didn't kill her. But then we see that Paul is actually the one who writes the message, "Don't open, dead inside," and he wraps around a chain on the door, and then he escapes. And he does the Michonne tactic where he takes out Katrina's teeth and wraps her arms, and he takes her, and he escapes. Now, we don't know whether Paul is still alive or not, but I hope that they do explain if he is, and I hope he does show up in the Rick and Michonne show, because it would be a great callback. And many people don't even know that this webisode even exists, so it would be really nice for them to shed some more light onto it. Tell us if the doctor was alive, and tell us if Paul was able to stumble upon Negan or the governor or any of those characters. And even if he did make it to the CRM, how did he make it? Did he keep Katrina's walker body around? And it'd be great to have that type of explanation for this show, because there is a lot of untapped potential here with Paul's story, and I do believe that he would be a really, really good mainstay for a character, and it'd be amazing seeing him interact with Rick Grimes and Michonne and Negan and all these other members. And it would actually be really cool to see him come to Alexandria as well and explain everything. And if he told Rick that he was in Atlanta and he was the one who actually wrote that message, which potentially saved Rick's life. And I would love to see these two interact. It'd be great for the show, it'd be great for the fan base. And I do believe that this is what they should have done for Tales of the Walking Dead. They should have explained more about Paul, because he's a really great character. He understood the apocalypse before almost anybody. He knew that you need to take extra measures to survive, and he was able to fight off a big amount of walkers in the cafeteria while he was strapped to a stretcher. So, if they make a season 2 for Tales of the Walking Dead, this is what I hope that they do. I hope that they show that Paul survived eventually and he was able to make it. He was able to meet some group, or even if he does make an appearance in season 8 of Fear of the Walking Dead, which I don't think he will, but with Morgan evidently going back to Alexandria, going back to Atlanta, it'd be really cool for him to find Paul, stumble upon Paul, and both of them going to Alexandria together potentially. So that's the story about the door and the message, "Don't open, dead inside," which explains a lot more about the hospital in Atlanta and how Rick stumbled upon the message. Now, it didn't really explain how long after did Rick wake up, but I assume it was probably a few weeks after or a couple of days after. So if you guys liked the video, please subscribe, like, and share. And comment down if you guys want to see more Walking Dead content, because I really love this show. I love this series. I love the characters. And if you guys want to see more of it, I am more than enthusiastic to make more. I have a lot more videos coming up, so comment down any ideas if you guys want me to talk about anything. Thank you.